Now I'm going to go through some tactical things of, again, different systems and pieces I found through these 5 specific tasks. First and foremost, I do want to say, what promises are you going to make to yourself? And that's to say, like, how will you celebrate when you successfully complete? If you miss something and you ultimately fail that day, how will you treat yourself? How will you think about failure and what will potentially bring failure with this challenge? If you've never maybe followed a diet before, this could be more of an area to focus on and be aware of than necessarily if you have before and you haven't drinking a gallon of water, right? That's something a little bit more, tangible. Just please drink more at the beginning of the day. There were several times where it just caused issues sleeping and all this stuff when you're drinking lots amount of water late at night. Okay. The other thing is to envision this challenge as like what it would be like if a film crew was basically recording you through this process and documenting your life, right? That was a really helpful thing because sometimes you just like sit there and you hang out and you're just like, ah. Part of that is from eating nutrition and eating well, and then also having, breaks, being kind to yourself, things like that. Again, other reason why I recommend the dietitian nutrition sort of route is to ensure that you understand protein and macros and you're able to actually have good nutrition to sustain and not just assuming that you can sustain. For myself as an entrepreneur, I run several businesses. I have a number of properties, and therefore there's different times and things going in. And so sometimes I just like won't eat lunch. And that becomes a challenge when you're doing some of these things. Your body's under this type of stress, but ultimately stress is managed. And there's this really psychological thought that like if you think stress ultimately helps you, then you'll see your cortisol levels as well as other things really help and benefit you. If you see stress as not necessarily difficult or challenging, but as like a negative and an issue for you, then you'll see actually negative effects from you as you experience stress. Okay. So here's some tactical things as we go down each task. Okay. Follow a structured diet. Write this down. Write down what you will and won't do, right? For example, when I had no fried foods throughout this entire process, and I once ordered pancakes and there was fried bacon underneath the pancake. I didn't know or didn't read the menu, I'm not sure. But I cut into the pancake and then had the pancake and then tasted the bacon below. I did not intentionally eat that fried food, and I didn't necessarily know it was there in that moment. Obviously, after the fact, I did. So ultimately recognize like what you will and won't compromise on and what counts as failure. Another thing I like to specifically talk about is, are mocktails allowed? You can't have alcohol, but especially for someone who might struggle with alcohol, doing a mocktail could actually be kind of a entry gate into it, and something that you maybe shouldn't entertain, where it's just, hey, I don't do any type of alcohol related drinks, maybe only like tea and water or something like that. Again, keep in mind that water intake for the tea does not count as water intake. Write those things down. It'll be helpful. It'll also help you understand like what you are kind of focused on with, your diet as well. So definitely recommend that. Okay. Task 2, 45-minute workouts. Here's some things. Pay for the $7 app. I've done it with the app, without the app. It's the best recommendation to just have the app. It has the mindset, it has the tracking, it has reminders. Just like do the app. Don't make it complicated. Do the app, right? Figure out how you're going to track your water. Buy the app. Also track your workouts, right? So I have my Apple Watch that I use. I also had an Aura ring. Right now, I wear Whoop exclusively, and I have for the past couple of years. Whoop, I believe, is the best ultimately to track stress, strain, and sleep, and just the combination of everything. It's also getting into your zone levels in terms of heart rates. It's a lot more detailed. Also gives recommendations of when to go to bed, which is so powerful because sometimes you're like, it's 10 p.m. and you're like, oh, I'm fine. Like, I don't need to go to bed. But in reality, you might be overstressed, overworked, what have you. And you might need to go to bed at 8, right? Having that sort of, coach, if you will, to help you, incredibly beneficial. So I recommend at least, have the Apple Watch potentially. I love this because I was able to see the time for 45 minutes. After, I've done it a number of times and whatnot, I can just watch a freaking clock and then also use the Whoop to track that on my phone, or a ring, like I said, same sort of thing. But personally, absolutely, definitely recommend doing the Whoop. The other thing with workouts is I recommend getting 2 memberships, or at least have access to another gym membership, because sometimes you need that 24-hour gym membership because just something comes up. I promise you something will come up. And so have that ability. At the same time, have a workout routine if you don't leave your house. There were several times where I was at my grandmother's house or just, I don't know, different things that I was like, I can't go out or shouldn't go out or whatever, and did so, right? Andy talks about not being stupid in this challenge. So if there's a tornado outside, don't go outside. When I was in Costa Rica, there might have been a lightning storm that I was in the rain with. Undocumented. Actually, it is documented, but we're not going to maybe show that. Point is that you want to be smart when you're doing these type of workouts. Stay hydrated, stay safe through this process, whether you're in the heat or the cold or natural elements. Keep that in mind for workouts. The other thing is going to be, at least for me, anytime I did an indoor workout, I included at least 3 minutes of stretching just to ensure that I was never going to be able to get injured. And it also had this mindset of to have me focused on the health of my body and not just constantly pushing my body. Again, the first time I did 75 hard was very hard on myself in so many ways. Personally, for me, workout kind of time and that sort of piece has sauna. Sauna time does not count as workout time. The other thing that I'm very clear on is this idea of like, if I can see the sky, then it is considered to be an outdoor workout. There's no roof over my head, right? So if I'm in an overhang, but I'm technically outside, that to me does not count, right? And that just added some kind of challenges or piece to that. That's not a 75 hard rule. It's just, my experience. Drinking a gallon of water, I've mentioned protein shakes don't count, mixture of anythings don't count, etc. I would recommend adding some sort of, salt or something to help you ensure that you stay hydrated. Don't just drink a bunch of water and expect it to stay hydrated, but have something to really keep things in line. Task number 4, reading 10 pages. Implement something from each book. Don't just read a bunch of books. I have a bookshelf here of all the different books that I've read over the past couple of years, some 50 or so books I've read, and I've really gone back through and started implementing some of those things or having a one key takeaway from those pieces, maybe even annotating the book. I always fold the pages or underline, but keep in mind, you want to have this for the future you as well as not just the immediate you, right? I also focus on 10 pages of content, not just 10 pages of 10 pages. So if in the chapter and it flips over, it's blank and it's blank, or it says like chapter 1, okay, that's not 2 pages. That is 0 pages, right? Also, through 75 hard specifically, it says no audiobooks. So keep these things in mind. Your brain is going to be challenged. This is a challenge. So have some of these conversations with yourself, and that way you can ensure and feel that you actually completed 75 hard and not just you kind of completed 75 hard. Okay, last one, task 5, progress picture. Waist up at a minimum, full body, preferred, show those leg muscles off, right? That's another thing, again, the difference between someone who reads 10 pages of any book a day and reads consistently the same book every day, right? Same thing kind of with the progress picture and kind of the discipline and things that you develop. Okay. Now, as we talk about the motivation for those who are maybe starting 75 hard or very much, in the early stages, this idea of like, what would happen if I mess up? My answer is failing is not the problem. Quitting is, right? Again, I've done consecutively 150 days. Some of you, this actually may not be healthily benefited, right? For you to continue. I know some people who have maybe stomach or gut issues or, became challenged with the previous industry or some injury, or something like that. So keep those things in mind. Walking 2 times a day, I don't believe is really a challenge. You do want to challenge yourself, but again, you want to challenge yourself. You don't want to be necessarily doing CrossFit 2 times a day for, the entire time. That's way too much, right? So have different types of physical fitness opportunities. I've done yoga, I've done hot yoga, I've done hot weighted yoga. It's also been, traditional workouts, strength training. I don't do CrossFit. It's just my thing. And, maybe it's a run, maybe it's a walk, maybe it's a, fast walk, whatever it might be, right? Keep those things in mind to really be kind to yourself. And here are some final thoughts of what I believe this challenge should really be approached as. Usually the people who attempt 75 hard are woefully underprepared. They haven't yet done some of these things, and they really grow in the process. I've also seen a lot of transformation for people who do it, say 2 or 3 weeks, and then never pick it up again. So this idea of like all or nothing is absolutely important from a mentality standpoint when you're doing the challenge. And it really separates like the oil from water, if you will, right? Even as I've seen, again, when I was coaching and working with a bunch of people in a group, like as people were like, oh, hey, like I just, didn't complete this. Like, it's okay that I failed, all this kind of stuff. Like there was that sort of like tension build up and really compromising on things really started to impact the group. So I actually took a group of 37, separated them and say, hey, if you are dedicated to successfully completing consistently over the course of 75 days, come in this group, right? It was 75 hard locked in. And then the other was doing, hey, we're just going to do this for 75 days. If I fail once or twice, so be it, right? The kind of like 80% principle. Hey, I did like 80% of the days. I still changed, I still benefited, things like that. But ultimately, being locked in, dialed to this is absolutely important because it is truly all or nothing. And there's this aspect where Michelangelo ultimately created the statue of David because he chipped away everything that wasn't David. And so over the course of 75 days, there are going to be things that are going to come up that are going to chip away at you and with you for this. I highly recommend listening to the 75 Hard info episode. Should be episode 208. And there's a couple others as well, specifically for learning about 75 Hard through Andy Frisella. The other thing is that as you go through this challenge, I would also recommend listening to that episode or similar episodes in that process, because just that mentality is really where you need to be. For me, it definitely was like all or nothing. Like I was willing to lose my job or, do these different things if it really came down to it, because I was so dedicated, but also that wasn't going to happen, right? So I was at both extremes of like, I will do everything to ensure that it stays to the highest and best level, as well as I will lose everything in that process in order to achieve, right? And that sense of polarity and commitment is ultimately what this tenacity challenge of mental toughness really truly is. So it's getting unstuck from where you are, going to where you want to be, or even could be, even didn't think you could be. I didn't sign up for 75 Hard initially thinking that I could do consistently 150 days, and then also doing the Live Hard program, and then, even doing it again the next year, right? So keep that in mind, that you want to keep one foot in front of the other day by day, have these systems and processes. And I really hope this helped. I also created a guide about 75 Hard if you'd want to know some of these questions and pieces, just to have this reflection in addition to the content that Andy's given to really help you through this process and ultimately complete it successfully the first time. So hope you stay strong, love the process, and I'll see you in the next video.